with more on this lawsuit and what is a media mob. I got to know him in 1996, one of the most tenacious attorneys in the country. If he sent me a letter of cease and desist, I'd beg for an apology. Lin Wood is with us. Lin, good to see you.
Good to talk to you, Sean. Thanks for having me on.
I meant what I said about Richard Jewell. I learned a lot. It has served me well.
Let me say this to you. Richard Jewell always appreciated what you did for him, Sean. When the mob went after Richard, you were the sole voice in the media that urged caution and said, stop, investigate, get the facts, get it right. Nobody else did that.
I look at Nicholas Sandman.
And Richard was always grateful to you for doing it.
I think the stress killed him. I think it so upset him. I look at Nicholas.
I know it did.
Sandman, and I know now, we now know the story. This kid, you couldn't teach somebody to act more perfectly than he did under the circumstances, and it would have taken all of 7 seconds to get the truth out. Your reaction?
Well, let me tell you what the Washington Post did to Nicholas and other members of the mainstream media. You have the era of the social media now, Twitter, Facebook. Thank goodness that didn't exist back in 1996 when Richard Jewell was under attack. So this video goes viral, the mob attacks, and you would expect that the mainstream media would be responsible enough to pause, recognize they're dealing with a student, investigate, and make sure that they have the facts accurate, that the story that they tell is accurate. But they didn't pause when it came to Nicholas because they wanted to rush out and they wanted to jump into the mob, give the mob a megaphone so that they could attack this boy because he was white, he was Catholic, and he was wearing a Make America Great Again cap. If Nicholas had not purchased that souvenir cap that day at the mall, if he was not wearing it, none of us would know who Nicholas Sandman is. He would still be living his life privately, going to school without worrying about how his school and his classmates and the world feel about him. Here's a 16-year-old kid, Sean. It's tough being 16. Think about what this young boy is having to deal with at age 16 when the entire world saw him the way the media portrayed him as literally the face of evil. It is inexcusable, reprehensible conduct by the media. And the Washington Post led the way.
Well, you also telegraphed my interpretation. I've read every word of your 38-page complaint that CNN's not far behind, NBC's not far behind. But, Lin, I've got to imagine if you add up all media outlets in this day and age and include Hollywood actors and actresses with the fame behind and the power of the pulpit that they have, hundreds, thousands of potential lawsuits here?
Certainly hundreds. The good news is that we have 2.5 years to identify and file lawsuits against the wrongdoers. Because he's a minor, Nick will turn 18 in July of 2020. We've got 2.5 years, and we got a lot of work to do because the social media and mainstream mob of bullies was extremely large in number, and they were very vocal. And the mainstream media, like the Washington Post, gave them a megaphone to go out and to shout to the world that this young boy had instigated this event, which he did not, had engaged in behavior swarming around Mr. Phillips, which he did not, had blocked Mr. Phillips' ability to leave the scene, which he did not. I mean, Nicholas Sandman, as you said, Sean, he didn't do anything wrong. He exhibited the most respectful behavior of anyone involved in this incident.
You know,
he was a child. He was accosted by adults, the black Hebrew Israelites, as your clip showed, yelling the most obscene slurs at these boys, homophobic, racist slurs. And then you have this character Phillips, and I say character because let me tell you, I've watched what he said. He doesn't tell the same story twice because he's a liar. And yet the media put him on interview after interview to tell his false story and condemn this young innocent boy.
Well, I assume that by those comments, and I think you said on Twitter that you would sue Nathan Phillips as well. You know, I watched what those kids went through and what these people said to them. They said nothing back. I don't know if I'd have that kind of restraint. It's kind of amazing. They said that he went and confronted Nathan Phillips. Just the opposite. I went through a litany of high-profile cases, Lin Wood. They get it wrong all the time, this mob.
Listen, you dated both of us talking about 1996. I have spent the last 23 years of my career. I'm sorry?
You still look the same.
I've spent, well, thank you. Both of our hair is a different color now than it was back then. But I've spent the last 2 decades working in the area of First Amendment law, trying to protect individuals' reputations and seek redress from false attacks. And I've watched it, Sean, deteriorate over the 2 decades. It's gotten worse and worse, and now it's reached the point where they're attacking falsely a child.
I am really...
Things have got to change, and there's got to be accountability.
And I know you don't need the money. I know that this is your passion. I am happy that they hired you. You're the best person in this. Lin Wood, thank you.